Oui, Simgiget, Sigaram Henach, Smoigit, Gabawals. It's a real pleasure to be here today. I have to thank Delbert for helping me discover that paradise is in Northern Ontario. It's so beautiful here. It's a real honor and a pleasure for me to be invited here. It's a real honor and a pleasure for me to be invited here and to be able to participate in the ceremony this morning. I'd like to recognize and thank the Anishinaabe people on whose traditional land I understand we're on. And I would like to thank the elders for their welcome this morning. There's a African American poet laureate, Maya Angelou, and one of the things that she said is that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but they will never forget how you made them feel. And I would like to thank all of the folks here for making me feel very welcome. To give you a little bit of background on who I am, I come from a little northern community on the northwest coast of British Columbia. It's a reserve called Lac aux Lamps, and on the reserve there's about 1,000 people that live. Now, I was brought up there as a little boy, and if my dad were still alive, he would probably introduce me as the only one who couldn't make it in the family business of commercial fishing. Even though I really loved commercial fishing, I just wasn't very good at it. And so he would say, as a result of that, I had to become a lawyer. And the implication on the way he said that was that I otherwise brought great shame on a family engaged in an honorable business. And But what I'm here to talk about today is to talk about a lot of the things that I've written about and to try to relate the idea of economic dependency to the value of education and the importance of education. When I first tried to circulated my manuscript for Dances with Dependency, I was told by people that knew the Aboriginal world that I was essentially painting a target on my back, because what I tried to do is I tried to write honestly about the kind of situation that we're in, and I guess, as it were, I was pulling the shower curtain back on the naked Indian in a way. And people said there's an Indian industry out there. There's an industry of people making a living off the misery of our own people, including some of our own leaders. And they're not going to like what you're writing. And so with that encouragement, I went out and tried to find a publisher. 32 letters of rejection later, I decided I was going to borrow $100,000 and set up my own little publishing company and publish the book myself. And so we did that. And the second edition, which is the only one available now, is now published through the U.S. And the book is now a 6 times bestseller in Canada. And I'm very happy about that, particularly since I didn't lose $100,000. And but the most satisfying thing about it is that it's being read by people in the communities. And what people have, I think, essentially said is that what I've written about resonates with the collective experience of people at every age level. When I first had written the book, I got a call from an elder in the interior of BC. And she was phoning me because she had read my book, and she said she wanted to buy 50 books. And I thought, that's a lot of books. Why are you buying so many books? And she said she wanted to buy 50 books because all her life, she said, she had gone through the experience of feeling that there was something wrong with her. She thought there was something inherently wrong with being Aboriginal. And she said after she read my book, she understood that there's nothing wrong with her at all. And she understood that we've simply been put into a situation of enforced dependency by specific government policy. And she said she didn't want her family members to carry all that weight with them through their lives. It was unnecessary. And as we were standing out by the beautiful lake here, and Rainy Lake and Rainy River, it sounds so exotic. Sounds like, and it is exotic. It's such a beautiful place here. But as I was standing out there today, I was thinking that what she had said was kind of like launching a canoe, and it's loaded down with all kinds of stuff, and you're trying to get to the other side of the lake. And you never truly have a picture that's painted in your mind for how to get rid of all that weight so you can get your canoe to go faster. And I think that's kind of what she was saying. And so my purpose in writing Dances with Dependency was entirely to try to make a difference. I was sent away from my community when I was 12 years old by my grandmother and my father. And their purpose in sending me away was to get an education. I went to elementary school and to the first year of high school on our reserve in an Indian day school. And like anything else that's run by the federal government, it was so hopelessly screwed up by a bunch of people who didn't care about Aboriginal people, and run by perhaps the most inept bureaucracy in the history of Western civilization, that I essentially didn't really have an education. But I was very, very lucky, and I'm very grateful for the fact that I received an education. Because what I think an education really is opportunity to understand how much bigger the world is and how much more you have to learn about, and to understand what the relationship of various things is in regards to each other. So that's what I was set out to do. My grandmother was a chieftain of one of the largest tribes in our community. And by our reckoning in the coastal system, she was a royal person. And back in her time, she did not like the way Aboriginal people were treated or the way they viewed themselves because of the way they were treated. And I think, thinking about it in retrospect, that her purpose in wanting me to get an education was to be one of the foot soldiers in the battle to try and make things better for our people. And so, well, that sounds really good. Sometimes it's not all that glamorous. But so that was my first book. I'll also talk a little bit about my next book. I've just finished my next manuscript. And what I learned from writing the first book, I was just writing about Aboriginal people, what I experienced and what I knew Aboriginal people were experiencing in general.